Hello and welcome to my gameplay of The Van Witch. I am Rain, a relatively new tabletop role player. I've actually never really been in like an actual tabletop, like in-person setting, and my ventures are mostly in solo play. And yeah, so I decided to start a YouTube channel kind of documenting all my games and seeing where they go, and just to have it more like firmly set and like kind of reflective on how I play now and how I'm going to eventually play in the future. So yeah, so I'm starting with my first trial, I guess like trial run of the Van Witch, created by Sunflower Wizard over on itch.io. So if you're interested, everything from this game to all the resources that I use will be linked down below in the description box. And so for this game, it is a pay what you want, I believe, or name your price, I think it's called on here, and is heavily inspired by the 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. I've never played that. I've actually been interested in it. I don't know if there's like a digital version, because I'm mostly a digital player. I just don't like to have a lot of like physical stuff anymore. But it has been on my list, especially since I love Vampire the Masquerade. So yeah, it's one day I'm gonna get around to it. But I saw this game. I believe it was in either a bundle I purchased, or I just saw it on a bundle, and then I was like, oh, looks very interesting and cute, and like something I would totally love. I've never really played a journaling game, so this is like my first like attempt at it. I did give it another trial run before, and I was like, okay, I do like the feel of this. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna actually like dedicate and actually play through it. I'm probably gonna play wrong. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I misread things all the time, and my interpretation of the rules can be horrible. So keep that in mind, that if I start playing and there's like either irregularities in my playing, or I just straight up like completely interpret something wrong, it's a me thing. It's not the game thing. Don't hold it against the game. Give it a try and see if you like it. Again, this is a name your own price, so if you want to throw a couple dollars or more at it, you can. If not, you can give it a test try to see if it's something like you do enjoy. And yeah, I usually, when I played, I supplemented this with I added other supplements to this one just to add more randomness to it, so it's less me just writing about my character and me having either random situations or events like thrown my character's way. So it won't be just like, your character had a good day today at the beach, and it's like, no, I want my character to be devastated, but like in the end maybe have a good day. Something like that. So yeah. Okay, now I'm gonna break down the both setting and the backstory for the game. So for the setting of the Van Witch, it takes place in the near future. It's not apocalyptic, but basically a climate attack destabilized humanity, and everyone decided to change their ways and put their focus towards helping each other and essentially nurturing the earth. The actual story, I guess like gameplay and vibe of this game, is very story focused and slice of life. So there's no combat or no ways to roll combat really. It's all about helping each other, helping the community, and have that sort of feeling. Now for the backstory. Essentially, you play as a witch who's descended from a long line of witches, and they attend the MWU Academy, which stands for the Magic Workers Union Academy. And this union works alongside what's known as the Democratic Workers Syndicates of the Americas, who basically encourage an alliance between like normal humans and magic users. So this game takes place during the senior year of the character, and essentially for that final year, the witches are allowed to go on a cross-country trip, and they'll essentially help out various communities, and it lasts about a season. So that's kind of like the main chunk of your story or game. So that will be essentially what I will be experiencing. And that's just like a very, very light run through of everything. Like the backstory is like 2 pages long. So if you're genuinely interested, I would say just check it out, read it for yourself. I will not be reading it all out because it is long. But yeah, so that's like my very, very simplified description of it. And now I'm just gonna lightly go over the rules of the game and kind of how the game flow is going to go. So this actually utilizes what's called the epistolary solo RPG system. I can't pronounce that. It'll be linked down below, or if you go to the Vanwich website, it'll redirect you basically to use the system. I believe it was also made by the same creator who made the Vanwich. But essentially, this is how it kind of works. You use a deck of playing cards. I do not own a deck of playing cards, so I will be using Sophie's dice. And you complete your character sheet. It did say that I'm supposed to complete the rules module checklist, which are prerequisite prompts. I don't know where this is located. I tried to check the RPG system engine, and I couldn't find it there either. So I could either just be missing it, or it could just be really difficult to find. It's probably the first one. I'm pretty, I probably had missed it. But once you do that, you establish a story arc prior to starting the story. You actually use this using tarot cards. I don't own tarot cards. I just created my own story arc. But yeah. And then the actual play cycle that you're going to do is you draw 1 card. You check if the card is a suit of favors. So basically, before you start the game, you're going to pick a suit of favors. I kind of went with what suited my character. So for her, I believe I picked hearts. But yeah, you would want to pick that. If the card is the suit of favors that you picked, you need to add a journal entry after writing the diary entry for the card. But either way, you're going to write a diary entry kind of written like the actions of what your character did based around the prompt themes represented by the card you pulled. And you kind of want to remember your story arc as well. And then you update any relevant information about your character, other characters, and the world, and then you just repeat the cycle. The game ends depending on how you kind of want it to end. Either your character dies, if you set up lose conditions, maybe you set up victory conditions, or any final goals are completed or failed. Or if you just want to end the story. You literally get to pick how you want to end the story. I've thought about it, and I think I'm going to do either the game ends in the 1-year cycle, or if anything happens, like anything bad happens to my character. So like they get really hurt, they die, they can't complete their road trip, things like that. I don't have like a definitive like end state, but kind of any of those. Alright, so now I'm going to get on to my character. And like I said, I had already recorded the game and everything, but I was too rambly. So this is going to be more streamlined and hopefully quicker. I did use a lot of different resources to kind of generate my character. Everything is randomly generated. So everything but her design. Let me rephrase. I've already pre-designed her like 2 weeks ago. So everything but her actual design is randomly generated. So here we go with that. The first resource I used is the Roll and Play Game Master's Fantasy Toolkit. For those who don't know, this is more so for GMs, as it says, but it's basically a bunch of tables that you can roll on to kind of generate not necessarily a character, but a bunch of different things. I specifically used one for the character, and the chart that I used is the behaviors and traits. I rolled a 12 on there, which is talks loudly and has difficulty being discreet. The next resource that I used is also a roll and play book, which is their fantasy character kit. I rolled on the Why Does She Become an Adventurer? For that one, I got a 6. And it says, you were cast out of your town after developing powers and causing a great catastrophe. Years later, you are plucking up the courage to go back to your home to make peace and help them rebuild. And then I decided to roll a mythic to see if she might hold either a magical weapon or a magical item because she is a witch. I rolled that yes, she does have either a magical item or a magical weapon. Then I rolled again and determined that she had an exceptional magical item. There's the chart in that same book, and the number that I got, or the roll that I got, was a 4, which is never-ending bottle of slippery oil that adheres to any surface. From there, the next book that I used is the Solo Adventurer's Toolbox. I used part 1 for this one because they have an NPC chart. On the NPC chart, the main one I liked was the alignment, so that's the one I picked. And I believe I got a 44 on there, which is true neutral. And then the next resource I used is Becoming. This is actually made for Vampire the Masquerade specifically. I have a few of them that use Vampire the Masquerade specifically. But with a bit of translating, you kind of use them for everything, which is what I do. All of my resources are kind of universal because of how I use them more for inspiration rather than an exact, like, it has to be this. So Becoming is literally, I think it's called like a life path generator, where it essentially, you can roll on various charts to kind of create your character. And for Becoming, again, is for Vampire the Masquerade, so quite a few questions are geared towards that specific game system. I just don't use those, or I translate them. But for this one, I actually just didn't use them at all, and I just used a very universal questions. So for the first one, what was your upbringing like? In which case I rolled an 8, and it says, I had separated parents and moved between their homes. I often played mediator for their fights. Okay, then the next one is, what sort of incident had the biggest impact on your life? For this one, I actually rolled to see if there was a big incident, because I kind of imagine that this is like, my character had is relatively young, so maybe they didn't have like a huge devastating experience, but I did roll it. She does get it. So here we go. So for this one, I got 9, which is a natural disaster. And then I got, how did that incident affect you? To which case I got a 3, and I found a new religion / spiritual practice. So for this one, I was kind of thinking, because I did roll previously on the fact that they were involved in like a huge incident. So I was kind of linking those together, which you'll see when I give my final thing, how kind of I put everything together. So the next question is, where did you spend your Saturday nights? This one I just think is good to know kind of how characters might spend their downtime. So for her, she got a 3, and it's around a few close friends. So these next 2 are more geared towards Vampire the Masquerade specifically. I use these because they kind of, the question is, what do you value most? And I feel like that's like a pretty like important thing, like to have values and kind of see like how the character would, what they would move towards. So this is geared towards Vampire the Masquerade because they rely on something called their virtues and their touchstones, and so I really like this question, so I decided to add it. So for my character, her thing she values most is survival. And to add to kind of like link to that question, we get like, who are your touchstones? And for my character, she rolled a 2, which is local authority figure. And then for the last question in this resource, I have, what's your Haven's vibe? For me, I added that one because she's gonna have the van, which is essentially her haven, her home. So this one, she rolled a 1, which is stuffy, is formal in a way that few can relax around. So from this resource, I'm jumping into another one that is also Vampire the Masquerade related, which is called Veins. This is literally a handful of tables that are like, you can just quickly use. It's all like modern day, but you know, again, you could just kind of use it for anything. For this one, I actually rolled on the quirk table, and I got Love's Crude Jokes, which I'm like, okay. So I gotta figure out how I'm gonna apply that. But yeah. After that, I actually used Mythic, or Mythic Game Emulator 2nd edition, because there are quite a few tables on there that I really liked. Most of them are in like I'm gonna say like the character section. Yeah. So the first one I'm gonna use is character motivation, to which I got 84, which is recover. The next one is their character personality, which I got 28, which is creative. Then I did character background, which I got 67, which is mistake. And then I did character traits and flaws, to which I got 70, which is physical. After using Mythic, I jumped around again to my final resource that I'm using, which is called Motive Character Engine. This is basically a way to essentially use characters and like generating them really quickly. So it has various like tables that you can use to kind of like make a quick character, give them quick motivations, maybe quick values, things like that. For this one, I didn't use it necessarily how you're kind of supposed to use it. For this one, it has a bunch of essentially tables that you can use, which in my opinion are really good tables, because it really kind of signals how your character might react in various situations. So I'll just go through the list and then you can kind of see what I mean. So for the first one, I had the Motivation Oracle. Basically, this oracle is used to measure the motivation or interest level of a character in question. So for this one, I rolled a 6, which is higher engaged and motivated, maybe even obsessed. The second one, or the second oracle that I used, is the Directness Oracle. This is used to know how directly the player approaches a problem. So for me, I rolled a 2, a normal, indirect approach, a bit complex, but still sensible. Next one I rolled on is the Curiosity Oracle, which is you can determine the curiosity or obsession level of a player or character. And I believe I got a 4 for this one. So active curiosity or mild obsession will pursue at most opportunities. Then we have the Impulsiveness Oracle. So you use this when you want to know how impulsively a character reacts. And I believe I got a 1 for this one. So overly cautious and slow to act, almost absent impulses. Now we have the Aggression Oracle, which is used to reveal the aggression or hostility level of a character. She is, I believe, at a 2, so trying to avoid conflict but willing to act in defense. So then the next one is the Cooperation Oracle. This is used to find how helpful and cooperative with a group a player is. And so I got a 6, which is willing to put aside their aims to help the group or another player. And finally, we have the Tactical Oracle. The Tactical Oracle you use when you want to know how strategically minded a player is being. So this, I got a 6. Obviously, the situation requires detailed planning and strategy. So for motive, you can kind of use it multiple ways. From what I've seen, you can use it to generate NPCs or kind of influence how a character might play. So obviously, when you're playing something like D&D and you want to run a party, it can be difficult to be like, you know how you would play or how your character would react, but you might not know how you expect another player or character to act in terms of like, unless you want to just control multiple characters, which you can too. But using Motive Character Engine can kind of take that stress from you. So yeah, I haven't really used it too much, to be honest, not yet anyway, because I haven't really run a game where I'm required to have multiple characters, and a lot of times I just rely on Mythic. But I kind of want to use it more now because I really love these specific charts, not only for like creating characters, but also for kind of using them to determine in the moment how a character might react to a specific situation. So yeah, and those are all of and that's basically my completion of kind of generating my character. And then I will get back in a second and kind of end with everything being put in a nice little bow. So yeah, be right back. All right, and we're back. Or well, I'm back. I basically fleshed out the information and kind of like intertwined it a bit better. I left out a few details that I didn't either feel like fit or I just didn't want to use, but I could still use them in other ways. Like I kept them, they're just like off to the side. You can't really see it because of how I cropped with my overlay, but the information, I still have it so that if I want to still use that concept, I still can. I'll just apply it in a different way. But yeah, I filled out all of the main basically categories that the Van Witch lists, and I'll go over that right now. So for the personality, I put Helena is a bit withdrawn and overly cautious. She is a thinker before an actor. So basically she thinks before she does anything. While not overly affectionate or creative, she enjoys working with her hands either through crafting or gesturing. She carries a lot of self-doubt, and she's able to push past these feelings the second that her friends are in need. Even though she doesn't often draw people's attention, she has difficulties being discreet. Don't expect her to stealth her way through any situation, especially if she's put on the spot. And while normally quiet, she can grow loud around those that she's comfortable with, especially if it's over something she's passionate about. I actually want to combine this with this one because they were meant to go together and I just didn't do that. Alright. Now for her personal history. This one's a long one. Okay. Once they reached maturity in their fields, Alec and Allison gave birth to their beautiful daughter Helena Bauer. She was small and quiet and everything they could ever imagine. That was until she turned 10 and her powers came in full force. They were worried that she didn't gain any of their magical influences, but they didn't expect her to be a walking tornado. The second that she showed her connections to the magical world, the town was brought to destruction. Barely any buildings remained standing. No one expected this, especially not from the child of two mediocre magic users. Afraid, the town mayor tried to exile the family, but they remained united. The townspeople stood by their side, but that didn't stop their growing fear of the small child. They all agreed that the Bauer family could stay as long as Helena was monitored. It might have helped that Alec worked within the MWU, the Magic Workers Union, and pulled some strings. Still, this caused a strain between the two, and the thread snapped. They divorced. Allison remained... let me clarify. Pulled some strings. Still, this caused strain between her parents. Ooh, and I can't spell. Her parents and the snapped. They divorced. Allison remained in town with Helena and her bakery, while Alec moved to the big city to work as a professor at the MW Academy. This worked well for Helena, who was able to remain with her friends, but she couldn't stop suspecting that they weren't comfortable around her no matter what she did. This caused Elle to grow withdrawn, and eventually blaming herself for the incident she could hardly remember. She felt lost and couldn't turn to her parents, who were once her entire world. Now, they were the people who feared her just like everyone else. When her father brought in the idea of attending MW Academy, she grew excited. To be around other witches and wizards sounded like a dream, and Helena jumped at the chance. The second that she could, she moved away to be with her father and became a student at the academy, to be around people just like her and those that understood her. Or so she hoped. Okay, her interests include practicing her magic and studying. Crafting, she'll do anything from tiny little trinkets to helping like the community build homes. Basically anything that keeps her busy with her hands. She loves crude jokes. She can be a bit oblivious when she's the one making them and like how other people might interpret what she's saying. So her important belongings, basically any of the items distributed by the MW Academy. This includes her grimoire and her van, which is, I meant to put very stuffy, but I don't know how to spell. Which is very stuffy with her decorations, but organized in a way that other witches would feel right at home. Other people not so much. And then she has a never-ending bottle of slippery oil that adheres to any surface like glue, gifted to her by her friend Millie, who also enjoys crafting. Now we have her fears, goals, and motivations. I kind of just like threw them in there and kind of decipher what they are, but I mean it's kind of obvious. So she wants to get full control over her powers and find out why she's different from her parents. She's afraid of losing control again and causing another catastrophe just like when she was younger. She misses her family from before the incident, like before they divorced. And although it was brief, she wants to return to that time. And she's driven to help others, especially those that she's close to, whether they're her friends, her professors, or her family. And that's what I have so far. So I'm basically going to call this video quits for now, and the next one will be of my first week, if not 2 or 3 weeks. It depends how long it'll take me to get through a week, even though it's just like a short journal entry. And yeah, so I'll get that posted up next. After that, I have some other games / projects in mind that I plan on doing, so I think those would be fun to get me to like release my creativity a little bit. And I just love like these types of games where I'm like rolling. Even this one too, for getting into like the finer details, I ended up rolling on a bunch of charts. Just being like, and asking, I used the Mythic Oracle and just asking questions. And yeah, some other games I do plan on playing, just like as like a future sneak peek. After I get through a couple of weeks in this game, I would also like to play Iron Valley. I did a test run of that and I really freaking liked it. If you like harvest simulators, like Harvest Moon, harvest simulators, farming simulators. If you like farming simulators like Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley, I'd recommend Iron Valley in like a TTRPG form. It's mostly solo, but you can there's like a co-op like rule set that you can like do. I haven't done it obviously because I'm solo, but it's pretty fun and it gives like totally the same like comfy vibes. So I plan on playing that one next. And I want to do like a totally not any like kind of TTRPG game related, but like using Mythic to like create a story essentially, but like having all the randomness thrown in of like a kind of like Danganronpa, Zero Escape, like horror scenario, maybe like Silent Hill inspired. So I'm planning on doing that soon too. So probably a few games of this one, then a few games of Iron Valley, and then that one, the Danganronpa, I'll call it the Danganronpa inspired game. And I'll just rotate between the 3 of them until I complete one of them. I think Vanwich will be completed first because I think it's the shortest one out of all of them. And I would obviously have to roll to see like how I'm going to determine how to end the Danganronpa inspired one. Yeah, and I guess that's about it. Hopefully I don't think of anything else before it's too late. But yeah, next video will be the first week at least of the Vanwich. So yeah, that's everything. Keep safe, keep warm. It's about to be summer, so keep cool. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. For anyone that did, have a great day. Goodbye.